How are you doing? Thanks very much for your time, Leo.
Oh, you're welcome.
So yeah, the film's really good fun. I mean, it's an anthology film, but it's nothing like any anthology film that we've seen before. That must have been something that really enticed you in the first place. But at the same time, it must have felt like a real kind of challenge because you're kind of like related to everything that's going on in there, but at the same time, everything that's going on is totally unrelated to you.
Totally separate. Yeah.
How did you approach that?
It was really interesting to approach something which felt very disconnected, but had this kind of one thread through line that people needed to kind of all buy into. And so one of the things that I remember speaking to Joe Sill, who was the director of Robophobia, but then also with Jess Varley, who directed also the through line piece, and she also directed the telephobia piece. I wanted to make sure that the audience was able to go on this kind of emotional jump with the character of Johnny that I play. And so the original, the arrangement of the film was that Robophobia would be at the beginning, and then you'd see my character kind of come through as it happened in the movie. And so I needed to have a leap that happened. And so what I decided to do, and I spoke to Jess and to Joe about this, and what I love about working with these filmmakers is they were so keen to kind of dive into the artful nature of what we could possibly do with the medium of film. And so I needed to have some sort of outward kind of transformation. And so I wanted to have like a shaved head situation, like a moment where, after what's happened in Robophobia and what's happened to my dad, I then make this decision to kind of start to act and lead this kind of rise. And so I thought, well, what better way to do that than to find this way that he's like sitting in front of the mirror, and this wasn't in the movie, but like this is kind of what I built, was like he's just shaving his head with just determination, being like, that's it, man, like that's it, I'm going in for it no matter what. Yeah, and so that's kind of how I carved and tried to create that leap that the audiences go on. And really the rest of it just is really in the hands of the director and the writer. And I'm so glad that the film was able to come together in the way that, and the most inventive way that it did. I felt that from reading the script from the beginning. I thought, oh, this is something I haven't seen before, and a new different kind of take on things. So
you actually got the whole. You actually got the whole script. You got the script of all the different segments, all laced. Yeah,
all of them together. And so was definitely aware of what was happening in each segment. And so, yeah, I'm glad that it all worked out the way that it did.
Who is this?
It deals with all these different fears that are all very timely fears, I felt, as well, that are all very, very prescient, no? That must have been something that really kind of played on you wanting to do this. But I want to tackle kind of the specific phobia that you deal with, which is robophobia, no? Yeah. I mean, I even feel a bit reticent speaking to you over the computer.
Yeah, I know, right? We're doing it right now.
But like, was that something that you can relate to? I mean, a lot of these, I knew that they existed, but I didn't know what they were called and specifically what they were about, Was robophobia something that you could relate to once you got on board? Or did you have to kind of go and do your research about it?
No, I mean, I definitely was aware of the presence of AI and the presence of robots kind of and technology in our lives. I think that's kind of prevalent everywhere you go right now. I started my journey really with when I started on the show Westworld, and kind of my eyes kind of were opened up to the manner in which AI and technology, the future that could happen in the very near future. And then so subsequently in the years that I filmed Westworld, I was very involved and was very engaged with the science and technology industry, asking them questions and learning about that industry. And so as kind of this project came up for Robophobia, and the reality that we lived in about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago when we filmed this, the advent of FaceTime and Alexa and Siri and Google and stuff was definitely here. And so I'm not gonna lie, I definitely have at times gone up to my Alexa and press that mute button, had the conversation I need to have, and then press it. And I remember as I'm doing it, I'm like, I know I feel really silly right now. The person that's looking at me is like, what are you doing? But it really has, it's a real reality that that I am aware of. You know, that technology is always listening, and the truth is that we need to embrace it. I feel like we need to enthusiastically embrace the change that's here, because by doing that, then you get involved in the process of it, and then you engage with it instead of fighting against it and then feel overwhelmed by it. So that's kind of my takeaway that I took away from this.
I mean, you took that away, but then since you left shooting the film, I mean, look what's happened. We have to depend on technology. So that must have been something that really kind of had you thinking back about this film once we were in London.
Yeah, it really did. And like, it kind of is a really interesting moment that's happened. You know, you talk about in the film itself, this deep web situation that's happening, and that people are listening and kind of can pinpoint and target where you are just through technology. You know, we're seeing the rise of that, you know, and being used for good, really, I think. And so it's only going to get more and more from here. You know, and now with the advent of the pandemic that happened, and, you know, the work from home situation that has kind of caused a lot of us to do exactly what we're doing now, using FaceTime or Zoom or what have you, and embracing technology, really it kind of has paved the way, I think, for the future. I don't think we can go back from here, and I don't think we should, really.
Yeah, no, but yeah, I mean, I think we're, fingers crossed, think the world's going to be a better place. No, I mean, once we do get to get back to some kind of normality, no, I think the things that we've kind of learned from being stuck at home is going to help. I think, especially kind of the film industry, for example. I mean, it's suffering now, but I think it's going to benefit from it in the long term. Don't you think?
Yeah, I feel like, you know, you've got to think of it that way, you know, and because at the end of the day, what we do is entertainment. You know, is it saving lives? Are we in the front lines working with that? No, but are we helping with people I believe in people's kind of mental health, and finding a way to kind of find a semblance of life that gives them pleasure personally and privately? I think yes. And so I do hope that our industry continues to thrive, because I personally have needed many hours of escape from what's happening. You know, and so one thing I wanted to highlight right now is, you know, with this rise that's been happening in the anti-Asian and hate crimes that have been happening, you know, the opportunity to speak about it has come, and I wanted to kind of take this opportunity right now to highlight that that even though we can keep focusing on the negatives that have been happening, I do want to take a moment to focus on the positives. I have found that there are so many different communities, and cross-culturally they have reached out to each other, and we've found allies in people that previously we may not have felt the opportunity to stand next to. And so you know, even on my Instagram page, you can see that there are places that you can donate to, and a call to action should people feel the need to. But there's also just the opportunity to reach out to anyone that you know that you feel like may be affected by this, that may have never spoken about it because they haven't had an opportunity to speak about it. They don't know how to speak about it. So I just want to highlight all the great organizations and the people that have been helping communities that may not have necessarily looked like themselves, or they may not see themselves in every day, but are looking to reach out to other American people to help them through this struggle.
I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, because that is something that is highlighted in this film. I mean, specifically your character kind of goes through this suffering at the beginning of the film, and then he does find allies later on in the film, no?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very much so. And, you know, when we started the project about 2 years ago, I remember sitting down with Joe Sill, who wrote Robophobia and directed the piece as well. And, you know, he and I sat down and we're having coffee, and I remember, you know, he himself is a person of color. He's Asian, and I remember sitting down with him, and when I read this, I thought, wow, you know, this really isn't spoken about, you know, in the industry. Like you hear glimpses of it, but you've never seen a real story about it. And if you have seen a story, it's usually only through the lens of it being a victim. And so this guy, Johnny, really goes from this place of being a victim, but really takes this rise and this journey into being an active leader, and finding these allies and making change and doing something about it. And so that was something that I was really excited to kind of be a part of a project that would show that. And you know, the concept and idea that casting me, who looks like me, who's had the history of work that I've had, casting me was not necessarily about, oh, this guy is of Asian descent, oh, this is a male character. It wasn't any of that. It was really about the story. And so I'm very grateful that I was able to kind of ride this journey with Joe and with Jess and everybody over at that was involved with the film. And so, you know, when we first tackled the subject of what was happening to Johnny at the beginning, and being the person that's being aggressed by this kind of racist rhetoric that's happening at the beginning of the film, it was I remember just thinking, like, I didn't have to go far to tap into that, and neither did he, because it's something that we grew up with. I'm so glad that now people are finding ways to kind of talk about this, and people don't have to suffer in silence anymore. And I hope this film offers an opportunity to show people that what can happen, and if they so feel the need to reach out to somebody after the film, hopefully after they're, you know, kind of decompressed after the ride of watching PHOBIAS.
So just to finish off then, obviously, I mean, we talked about hopefully that the industry will continue to thrive, especially after once things get back to normal. Have you been able to thrive during lockdown? Because most of the actors that I've spoken to have they've had time to kind of be on their own and do their own things, but they've been pretty busy actually. Is that the same case for you?
Yeah, surprisingly, you know, I think fear of like, what's going on, you know, and that kind of madness, in a way, because it has stretched out as long as it has, and is probably going to continue for a little bit longer, has offered us an opportunity to, after the rise of adrenaline that happened, kind of to take a step back and look at the space that we're in, and creatively allow things to grow, and to plant and then to grow. And so I personally have found it a creative time, and I've written shows now, so we're now into producing a new show. I've now started producing a film as well, with some fantastic producers, and so I'm really excited to see what's going to come out of this this time. And I think, you know, one thing that is definitely true is that a lot of development has happened. I mean, even in my own world, but like, I think in Hollywood and the film industry as a whole, as things were paused on production, things that that happened for development was still going strong. People had time to write, people had time to, you know, give notes and do read-throughs. So I'm excited to see what kind of comes out of this pandemic time.
No, yeah, I mean, you and me both. I'm confident that it's going to. I think it's actually something that's that we can look forward to. Actually, I mean, obviously it's horrible what's happened, but I think it's going to be cleansing and refreshing, and we're going to see something nice and new. Yeah. Yeah,
because ultimately this is something that we all went through globally. And so you're able to kind of, in a way, pinpoint, hey, this is pre-COVID, this is post-COVID. And not many things in this world in our lifetime can we pinpoint globally and say, hey, you, Howard, over there, and me, Leo, went through this same situation. And kind of, so it's like a unity that's kind of happened. And I'm hoping that, you know, really some awesome creative stuff comes out of this.
Fingers crossed. Thanks so much for your time, Leo. It's been really good to speak to you. Keep safe, and I hope to speak to you about one of these projects you've been working on.
Yeah, man. Again soon. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Really nice to speak to you. Take care.
All right, mate.
All right. All the best.
Let's get you hooked up. We need to get out of this place.